All set. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the council meeting of Wednesday, the 17th of April. Welcome, councillors along, staff, media, public in the gallery, and all those listening in at home. I'll call for apologies, and I have one from Councillor Mackle. So I'd like to move and second that apology. Phil, Councillor Hooper, Councillor Todd. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried, thank you. Extraordinary business, I know of none. Is there any extraordinary business in today's agenda? Nope. Declarations of interest. Any declarations of interest on today's agenda? No. So what we're going to move on to now, councillors, is the public forum. And first up, we're going to have the Hakateri community petition. It is an item in our agenda later on, but we'll hear from the people at Hakateri now. So if Gary Clancy and others, if you've got more, come forward, or just yourself, Gary, one or the other, more than welcome to all come up and sit. And Gary, you've got 5 minutes to speak to us, and then the councillors can ask questions of clarification.
Thank you.
Gary, the floor's yours.
Thank you very much. Yeah, good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Gary Clancy. I'm a Hakateri resident. I want to acknowledge firstly Mr. Talon Yonker from Hakateri, a fellow resident, and the huge amount of work he's done in corresponding with the ADC and also helping develop the present representations to you. Thank you, TJ. Shocked and disappointed. These words sum up the common mood of the many Hakateri people at the sudden unannounced closure of the Upper Hakateri Camping Reserve. The reserve has been the centrepiece of Hakateri Recreational Reserve for over half a century. Consistently popular with million-dollar views of the ocean and river mouth. For decades it has attracted visitors from all over New Zealand, Aotearoa, and also across the world. The most common question frustrated Hakateri people are asking is, why were we not consulted? We're told the decision to close and install the unsightly bollards was operational. This was about deciding the future of the Hakateri premier recreational amenity with no significant financial implications. It was never minor. When asked at a meeting in May 23, which we requested with ADC, we were told there was no way of contacting us. Lack of email addresses was mentioned. Erosion issues noted by ECAN back in 2017 focused on Nosy Parker Point, which is around 80 metres away from the reserve, and the Lower Hakateri waterfront further away. A precautionary second fence erected on the reserve in 2017 was and still is today 6 or 8 metres from the original cliff top fence and would still today keep vehicles away from the cliff. We're told the Upper Hakateri camping area needed to be self-funding. Details of income and expenditure have never been provided to us despite being requested. Council's own revenue and finance policy does not require campgrounds to be self-funding, only 25 to 35% of costs from fees and charges. We're told there were several complaints and spanned several years. We're told about inadequate records being kept. Numbers of complaints or complainants are not known. Multiple complaints were made by some people, but again, no information, no numbers. Descriptions of complaints provided included 4 instances of human poo on the ground over several years, hardly an academic. 3 instances of campers blocking residents' driveways over several years again, hardly a major problem. Other low misdemeanours that were mentioned were locals asking for water and charging cell phones and occasionally wandering campers. Likewise, these are not compelling reasons for closure. No complaints have been received about Lower Hakateri at all, the camping area. Why the stark contrast, we ask? 2 of the 4 households closest to the camping reserve have signed the petition to reinstate the camping area and remove the bollards. Taken all together, complaints is a weak justification for closure. The ugly bollards. An internal ADC email, January 23, I quote, "If the bollards are placed about 5 metres from the seal finish, this will give cars enough room if they are parallel parking. The distance is around 73 metres. Thanks." End quote. The ADC approved site plan also shows a similar distance requirement. Bollards have actually been placed much closer to the roadway at around only about 2 metres from the roadway, thereby completely preventing safe parallel parking off the roadway. We've had no satisfactory explanation for these negative changes. Conclusions. Consultation with Hakatui community should have occurred, like the Balmoral Hall, like the Tynwald Pool. Principle should be no decision about us without us. Justifications for closure are weak. For any picnickers and disabled folks, final bollard placements prevent safe parking. There is no vehicle access at all to the grassed area or to the picnic tables, and no safe access to the table designed for wheelchair access. A large proportion of Hakatui folks have presented to you a petition requesting removal of the bollards and reinstatement of camping at the Upper Hakatui Reserve. Safe parking and realistic access to the grassed area for picnickers and disabled people is a sensible first step. It's not too late to talk. Maybe a mutually acceptable, broader solution can be worked out. Come to Hakatui, talk to us. Bring some biscuits, we'll provide the tea and coffee. We'd love to see you. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Gary, for that presentation. Well done. That's good. A few pointers in there. Councillors, questions of Gary, please, of clarification. Lynette, Councillor Lovett.
Just trying to work out which is the biggest issue, the unsightly the bollards that are put there. If another type of fence was there, would that have been okay in the right position? Or are you objecting to having a picnic area there for the locals? Because at the moment, where do the local, if that picnic area wasn't there and it's full of campers, where do the picnickers actually go?
Well, what we're saying is a first step would be improved picnic facilities, particularly access to the grass and to the tables. That's the first thing. We've also asked through our petition for reinstatement of the camping area. So, I mean, the first step would be access, and a better, particularly with disabled people, and for people just simply to be able to bring their cars onto the grassed area in the same sort of way that people are at Wakanui Beach and also at, like, say, Lake Hood. That's what we would see as a first priority.
Okay.
Thank you. I just have a couple of questions myself, Gary. And reading, we've got a report coming later in the agenda, which won't be too far away, where we can receive your petition through there. And there's a wee bit of background there. It's around the cliff erosion, and has it been fenced off to keep people back from the cliff for safety reasons, in your view?
Yes, the original clifftop fence still remains. There's been absolutely negligible erosion in that fence, or beside that fence, over many years. As I've included in my briefing paper to you, with two major weather events, that area was basically unaffected. It's Nosy Parker Point and also the frontage at Lower Hakatui that's sustained the erosion. The second fence was erected in 2017 upon the recommendation of ECAN because of erosion concerns, and that's about 6 to 8 metres, in some areas even further than that, from the original clifftop fence. And so it's never been possible since 2017 to move a vehicle any closer than that second fence to the clifftop. So any erosion risk has been completely mitigated.
So you're quite happy with that fence there, and people can walk to the edge if they wish, but they just can't take a vehicle?
Well, they'd have to climb over the fence, but
okay, right.
Yeah, but the second fence was there since 2017, and the camp operated without incident for the next 5 years until it was closed with that second fence, and it's still the same today.
Yeah, and the other request is to reinstate camping. And reading some of in the report, some of the camping that's been done there is not that user-friendly for what's being left behind. And I think staff are trying to push the camping down to down below and concentrate it there where there are facilities for people to use. Do you agree with that statement?
Well, there are facilities in Upper Hackatree as well. There is a toilet block there. It's simply the alleged behaviours of some campers. The interesting comparison is that Lower Hackatree campers have never generated any complaints, whereas there've been a number apparently for Upper Hackatree. I mean, one of the options that could be considered, and this is maybe up for discussion, is if it was to be reinstated for camping, perhaps some more controls could be put around the likes of self-contained vehicles only, for example, which might mitigate that particular problem. But I mean, I think, could I say with respect, that sort of issue that you've highlighted is probably common in many campgrounds right around New Zealand. And so I don't think that on its own is justification for closure.
Yeah. Just on the camping aspect of it, generally the residents who live there don't like camping on their back doorstep. Generally around the country, they sort of try and do away with it and keep it to themselves.
Right.
But your request is opposite to that. Could you explain why?
Well, yes.
Why do you want campers in your backyard, so to speak?
Well, it is across the road, and it has been a successful camping area, we think, since the mid-60s, without incidents for many years, and it continued to operate. The four closest, as I mentioned earlier, the four closest residences to that camping area, two of those households have actually signed the petition for reinstatement. So that's, I think, quite interesting. Presumably the other two are not interested in reinstatement. But we don't have any information, and the information, well, very little information about the content and detail of complaints, or nor the extent, not even the most basic number about how many, for example. We were told by council that some people made multiple complaints, but they can't tell us how many.
Thank you. Councillor Ellis.
Thank you. Do you think things have changed down there since there's no longer an on-site caretaker looking after the camping area?
Yes, I suspect so. That is probably a factor in that caretakers have in the past, I think, traditionally keep an eye on what people do. Yes, that's probably a factor. But there may be a case for another caretaker, a replacement caretaker. But at the moment, the system operating at Lower Hackatree is on a straight-out honesty basis where people pay online. And the question is really, couldn't that also be used in Upper Hackatree with perhaps suggestions around the types of vehicles that are allowed to stay there, and maybe a restriction as to how many nights, for example?
Maybe hard to police that without a caretaker on site, but...
Well, I take the point. Yes, that's probably right. I mean, ideally, a caretaker would be good, because that's probably the best check and balance you can have.
Yeah.
But other areas operate without them.
Councillor Hooper?
Thank you. Gary, do you think the campers are spoiling the $1 million views at all? And as day tripper picnickers, are their views affected at all by campers?
Well, the views are the same views as always been. What really is the issue is the access to the grassed area. And as I mentioned earlier, the bollards originally were intended, we understand from internal correspondence with ADC, to be 5 metres from the roadway edge. That's the sealed area, 5 metres. The site plan that we got a copy of also showed a similar distance, but what happened was a complete surprise to us when the bollards were placed only 2 metres. So now it's not possible to park a vehicle on the side of that road without actually being on the sealed roadway. It's not safe parking. So for people to stop and actually view the view, they have to park in a precarious way. Council staff, when they met with us, suggested moving a few bollards to create one car park, and that did occur. Well, it was actually supposed to be 2, but in fact it's only big enough for 1. So one vehicle could park there and see the view.
Supplementary, please. At one time, at a busiest part of the summer, how many campers are there and picnickers in the area?
Well, I don't have empirical data, but we do know anecdotally that it's very busy over the Christmas, New Year period. Several campers, many come and go regularly.
Just rough figures.
Look, I couldn't give you a number, but I think it's probably safe to say that through that period, there's vehicles and people there every day. That would be my assessment of it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Todd?
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Gary. Do you believe that maybe council and ECAN are being too risk averse where the placement of the bollards are? Like, obviously they're open from a point of view of maybe safety, etc., etc. But where the bollards are was obviously quite away from the cliff face. So are we too risk averse?
Well, I think that's a great question. Yes. Looking back in history, the camp operated with vehicles very close to that old cliff top for many years, apparently without incident. I have no knowledge of any, accidents with people and large chunks of the cliff falling away. Now we have a fence which is 6 to 8 metres, in some areas even further, from here to the mere away from the cliff top. So no vehicle can go any closer than that. So yes, you could say it's over the top, but I mean, they're probably erred on the side of caution, and I really can't see that there's any real risk at all now.
Councillor Bryan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Gary, just a question. You've got a camping ground below as well, is it? There's 2 different camping grounds.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
You've got a lower camping ground and a bigger one and an higher one, upper one. Is the smaller one or the one below, is it big enough? Do you need 2 camping grounds?
The lower one, yes, it's a much bigger area and could accommodate many more campers. Yes, that's true.
So is that not enough?
It probably is sufficient for the volume overall if everybody went to that one area, yes. So it's not an overflow situation, I think, if that's what you're meaning. But
Yeah,
I mean,
basically.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. What I want to say, if you've got one what is big enough, why not walking to the top and no parking there, camping there?
Walk to the top to see the views,
Mhm.
you mean? Yes, people can do that, definitely. There's no question of that. But there again, there are people who are not so mobile, disabled people who can't do that. And the thing is too that the Upper Hackatree camping area has always been, I think, the preferred site because of the $1 million views. And people like to park there, even for an afternoon, and have a cup of coffee and look at the views. They can't do that now.
Okay.
So, but on a volume basis, yes, you could say that the Lower Hackatree area is probably sufficient for the overall total volume, yes, but not the most desirable.
Okay. So basically, the top part could be done for day people coming, just for a day.
Sorry.
So people could be just coming, stay there for a day, and going down below and park up there.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
I'm not sure if it's my voice or the speaker. If you park on the top for a day,
Yes.
you can go down to the lower part, the camping ground, and park up there. So that takes a lot of trouble out.
Are you saying,
What he's saying is you can camp down the bottom, lower, Hackatree, camp there, and if you want to see the view, you can drive up the top and park there for the day, and then go back down to your
well, at the
camping
moment,
spot.
yes, thank you for that clarification. At the moment, essentially no, because of the parking restrictions, because these bollards are so close to the road, like 2 metres, that you cannot park your car safely on the road,
Yeah. So the bollards.
off the road.
So the bollards are a problem.
Absolutely.
Okay.
They absolutely are a problem for parking, even where if the original installation of 5 metres had been adhered to, then people would have been able to park safely off the road and enjoy the views, have their cup of coffee.
Okay.
But they can't do that at the moment.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Lover?
I just, I'm looking at this, that we obviously you think that we've got a problem with the bollards, but you're asking for camping at both levels. And I'm thinking you go to any of the rest homes that go down there with a busload of people, or us that go down there and want to stop and have a cup of tea and admire the views. How do they feel being able to picnic amongst camper vans who stake out there but with their dogs and things, would it not be better to keep the camping on one level and the picnickers in that next level so the locals can go down there and enjoy the view without being kind of sitting amongst these campers and things?
Well, that potentially is a compromise position, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, as I've mentioned, the first step, as we would see it, would be to at least expand the picnicking and day sort of parking aspects of that area, if not potentially opening up to camping as well again. But at the moment, you can do neither. But yes, we see vans full of people from rest homes, etc., all the time, and now they go down the lower area because there's no way that they can go up to the top area and enjoy the view. It's just not possible to park.
Thank you. So if I'm summing up here, there's two issues. One is where the bollards are and one's with the camping. So
Correct.
yeah, we've got that, and thanks, Gary, for presenting that to us. So we're going to receive your petition in probably 5-10 minutes, or probably a bit more than that, and then we'll have a look at what we can
Right.
do when we get into that part of our business today. So more than welcome to sit down the back and wait for that to come up.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
If I may, just before I finish, on the petition, just in the last day or so, I've noted two errors in the petition, and it wouldn't be proper of me not to raise them. One of them is a person's name has been duplicated, and it was completely inadvertent. It was a case of a couple where the spouse, one of the spouses, entered their own name and their partner or spouse as proxy, and then separately later the other person entered their name on a separate piece of paper, not knowing. So each didn't know the other had signed. That was one, so there's one extra there. The other one was a person who, when they completed it, they took up 2 lines with lots of big writing, and those 2 lines have been counted as 2 entries when they are in fact 1. So the overall number should be reduced by 2.
Okay, thanks for that. Thanks for that clarification. It's good.
Okay.
Thank you. That's
Thank you very
great.
much.
So, thank you for that. Next up is Tynwald School Board of Trustees, and we have Chris Hill. And Chris, please come forward. You've sent in a letter sort of outlining what your concern is, but please take us through that, and then councillors will ask questions of you. Floor's yours. Push the button on the right-hand side. Right-hand side. Perfect.
Excellent. Sorry for that. Kia ora and good afternoon, councillors. Thank you very much for the opportunity to come today to present. With me is Dave Leslie, a member of the Board of Trustees at Tynwald School. I am the presiding member of the Board of Trustees. As you alluded to there, Mayor Brown, we have provided a letter simply just to outline our concerns, and also just something that we would like to highlight and potentially be involved with looking at remedying, mainly in support or concern of the safety of our school and residents in the surrounding area. So if you're comfortable, I'll read said letter and then obviously dive into it a wee bit more. So, to whom it may concern, it is with growing concern for the safety of the children of our school that we write this letter to you in regards to the situation of traffic control on Graham Street in Tynwald. More specifically, the stretch of Graham Street between that of Thompson Street and Harlan Street. In the past few years, there has been significant increase in the volume of traffic that travels this stretch of road, and as a result, has caused a heightened level of anxiety and safety concerns for our pedestrians. We have conducted an independent and informal review of the traffic during a very set period of time, which was between the hours of 8 and 9 a.m, prime hours for children arriving to school, and between the hours of 2:45 and 3:15, which are the hours or the times that children leave our school and kindergarten. We have noted that between 90 and 160 cars travel this stretch during these times per day. This informal review was actually conducted on a week during the closure of parts of Graham Street. Thus, we believe the evidence that we hold is a much more conservative figure than would be the actual daily average. As concerning to us is that there seems to be a generalised perception that this road is not near the entrance to our school, therefore causing cars to travel well in excess of the actual speed limit of 50 kilometres per hour. Even troubling further is when we witness truck and trailer units, which also travel these roads at even higher speeds. We acknowledge that there is currently a pedestrian crossing closer to the Thompson Street intersection for use of pedestrians to cross safely. However, it is our firm belief that this is not being utilised or performing to the level required to ensure the safety of all of our pedestrians, especially our young students and the kindergarteners close to us. We feel that in comparison to many schools in our greater community, this stretch of roading has gone relatively unnoticed within the school zone limits, especially when the other 3 stretches of roading which surround our schools have a school or kura zone speed limit of 30 kilometres per hour. We do request that this be reviewed urgently to ensure a safer area for all of our students, families and community members. We invite you to conduct your own independent review of this, partnered with the knowledge that this stretch will likely increase in traffic volume in the near future. Significant increase of residential homes being developed in the Tynwald and Huntingdon suburbs, and the number of giveways on Agnes Street being much less appealing for motorists en route to the new traffic light intersection. This means there is likely to be a lot more sustained traffic throughout this stretch we are concerned about. We hope to be able to provide some suggestion to how we feel this could be remedied, and trust that you will consult with us in due course should the need arise. Finally, we would also like to thank you for your continued support of our communities, cultures and safety, especially with the young people in mind. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris. Well done, and good letter outlining your concerns, which is good. We need to hear. Councillors got questions. Councillor Lovett.
I travel this route most days, and I must say I haven't seen traffic going that fast, but have you talked to the traffic department about putting a speed camera down there to monitor the speeds, or have you yourselves been monitoring the physical actual speeds vehicles are doing?
Yeah, in regards to monitoring the actual speeds, so 2-part question. Firstly, no, we haven't contacted Land Transport or any of the subsidiary parties. We started this process by contacting yourself with our concerns. Happy to take that on board. In terms of monitoring the speeds, we don't have any technology which obviously captures the actual speeds, and all we can do is base it on our feel. However, there is a general consensus around the community, our community involving the school and the teachers, that it is much higher than the 50 kilometre per hour, which we still feel is much too high.
Okay.
Councillor McMillan.
Thank you. I've got a couple of questions, if that's okay. First one, do you think that the Graham Street area should have the permanent 30k sign or a variable sign?
When you reference permanent versus variable, you mean during school hours?
So the permanent one is the 30k signs that you already have around
Sure.
your school. The variable one's probably similar to Long Beach, where it's an LED one and flashes.
Okay. Look, conscious of the cost involved in the variable ones with the LEDs, I don't necessarily feel it needs to go to that extent. Potentially a 30 kilometre kura zone during certain times, during school hours. I believe Borough School has one on the intersection down for Alpha Forest Road, apologies. So I believe something like that may be sufficient. Yeah.
And another question, if
Yep.
that's okay. And I may have this memory wrong, but when the Tynwald corridor was being discussed and planned, etc., I thought that they had a plan, and they were working with Tynwald School to have a plan in place for safe, I was going to say access, but for safety and walking and getting children to school. Do you know anything about that, and was that ever discussed?
Yeah. So to our knowledge, nothing. I must admit, myself and Dave Leslie, we are relatively new to the board in the last 18 months, so potentially prior to this, depending on when that was discussed. However, to our knowledge, there's been no review, no discussion. I can only assume the pedestrian crossing that is there was deemed adequate at the time. However, speaking to the principal and the acting principal, from our conversations, we don't believe that they've been in negotiations or in discussions or consulted with that. So short answer, no. Sorry.
Thank you. Can I ask one more question? Is that okay? Does Tynwald School do the Kiwi crossing? Do they have
We do
teachers
out the
out
Harlan
doing that?
Street. We do out
Okay.
the Harlan Street, and we have held discussions as a board surrounding the desire of the board to have that facility or the Kiwi crossing involved there. So yes, we'd absolutely be more than willing, and we would like to look at that. The concern for us is obviously the speed surrounding it, and the location of the pedestrian crossing is another concern outlined in the letter.
Thank you.
Councillor Bryan?
Thank you for that, gentlemen. Just following on from Liz. So what are the options? What are your ideas?
Fantastic, thank you. So our suggestion would be that there would be a 30-kilometre stretch put in place, and whether that started a little west of the Thompson Street, so more toward the Tynwald Hall, and finished a little further east of Harlan Street, which is more on the way to Lake Hood, just capturing that safety zone, allowing for traffic to slow down. In the ideal scenario, although we believe the pedestrian crossing is there for the purpose, we feel it's not quite adequate given that it is quite a busy intersection, and feel that if that could move 100 metres further east down toward Lake Hood, I feel it would be a lot more visible. Students would be more inclined to use it. We have a lot of students, and that's a school issue, we understand that, but we do have a lot of students going straight through George Glassy Park and straight across onto Harland. Now, if they were enticed to walk slightly further, basically from the other edge of George Glassy Park straight across to Tynwald School, we feel that that would be prime location. Conscious of the fact I have seen people painting the pedestrian crossing just recently, so obviously there's some resourcing that may, if we make a shift, may go to waste. So yeah, that's a major, or those are two solutions on that stretch. We would also love to entertain the thought of a pedestrian crossing on Thompson Street, because that is another area of concern, possibly not quite as severe, but one where we notice children are walking out blind, simply by the kindergarten there, with even younger children, near your daughter's property there, Mr. Brahms. So we feel that there could be another pedestrian crossing reviewed potentially.
Thank you.
Councillor Hooper?
Thank you. Yeah, I was going to ask a similar question, but so if we move the pedestrian crossing down towards the Harlan Street area, I still see a number of kids and parents walking down Thompson Street. Do you not still think they'll beeline it straight across Graham Street instead of hanging a left 100 metres and then taking the pedestrian crossing?
Yeah, unfortunately, there's probably never going to be a right or wrong answer in all cases there, Councillor Hooper. But look, hopefully, if this is something that is explored, then the school would get behind it as well, and would communicate it very clearly to the parents and the communities that that's our expectation first and foremost. Of course, yes, you will. You'll always get the old jaywalkers, people trying to take the shortcut. It can't necessarily cater to all kids. And I feel that if we make that shift, it's just it's going to cater to the 99, not the 1, and that's our hope.
Councillor Todd?
Thank you. You referenced that cars were doing 50 or over 50 k's. Is that within the 30k zone, or that's once they get outside the 30k zone?
Well, at this time, there is no 30k area there.
Wasn't it?
No. So what we're finding is people coming through Huntingdon from Lake Hood all the way up to the main stretch. We can have cars still slamming the brakes on at McMurdo, which is less than 200 metres from the main road, without any empirical data to back that up. We would assume 60 to 70 kilometres an hour. it feels that fast, certainly if you've got a truck and trailer. But yeah, currently there is no speed restriction. It goes from 80 just past the Grove Street intersection all the way to 50 to the main road.
So the pedestrian crossing, is it slightly raised or just a normal pedestrian crossing?
Not raised at all, no. There are slight islands coming out into the road, but it is very busy. It is quite a large and busy intersection with properties on all four corners, or the church there, and it does get missed. Absolutely.
So would a
Feels like
raised pedestrian crossing slow?
that would be another solution, yeah, potentially moving it where we would like, raised.
Cool.
It's a
Thank you.
deterrent, and hence safety.
Councillor Ellis?
Thank you. Thank you for your submission, fantastic. Just wondering, have you noticed any change in habits since the lights have been operating? And I know they haven't been open for very long, so it's probably a bit soon, but, you know, are people diverting off Graham Street to try and get to the lights, or are they thinking it's probably easier now to get onto the state highway because the lights are creating gaps?
Yeah, fair question, especially when Agnes Street now has that intersection, and just outlined in the letter there, Agnes Street has two giveways, which is quite frustrating for motorists wanting to go straight, especially when they're going to have to stop at the lights as well. So what we feel and know, we don't have data, however for me it would be a much more appealing route if I was coming from Lake Hood, travel right past the school, and take the right onto McMurdo Street, thus missing all of the giveaways on Agnes and turning left at the past Super Value and the tavern there to get to the lights. So for me, it's a much less attractive and appealing road or stretch of road to get to that lights intersection. So I don't believe there'll be any difference in that corridor.
Councillor Hooper?
Have you considered having the wardens, especially as the kids are leaving the school, and would the fluoro gear that they wear and things help? I know it's a full block walk, isn't it, with all the kit from the office, say, but is that something you've considered?
We would definitely consider it. We have communicated that to the obviously the wider board and the principal as well, understanding that. I believe the consensus at the moment is we want to understand how this will be resolved in future before we start resourcing that. Having said that, safety has to come first, so we would absolutely be prepared to encourage that. It's just a matter of the swing arms. That we do have swing arms at the Harlan Street. It's a little narrower stretch of roading and a 30k zone. So first of all, if we looked at patrolling that, it would have to be 30k for the safety of our wardens first and foremost as well.
Thanks. There's a lot of questions I've tidied up, but thanks, Chris, for coming in. We may have some information on traffic counts on that road, where those two strips go out on the road that collects information of speed, number of vehicles and the type of vehicle, whether it's a truck or a light vehicle, so we can have some information on whether people are speeding or not. I know I've got a meeting with the Senior Sergeant of Police in town. I can ask her if she can up the patrols a bit out there and just see what's happening, and if people are speeding then they will be dealt with in that way. And also we have a road safety committee meeting, which Councillor McMillan chairs. So I'm wondering if she could take note of this and ask staff for some information for an agenda item on their next meeting, which is not for a couple of months away, I think, is it? It's in May, coming up in May. And on that road safety committee meeting, we also have schools represented on it, and I sit there alongside the Deputy Mayor, but we haven't heard of this issue. Okay. So it should be, this sort of issue should be feeding through the principals to that committee and come down, but you've gone the other way around, but we'll address it through the road safety committee and hopefully get a conclusion for all to improve the safety of Tynwald, of the children in Tynwald getting to and from school. So thanks very much for coming along and presenting. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, great. Next item, Council, is the minutes, and anything need adjusting on page 3, 4 or 5? If not, give a mover and a seconder that the true and accurate record. Councillor Lovett, Councillor McMillan. All in favour, please say aye. Yes. So moving over to page number 6 and the Audit and Risk Committee, which was held on the 27th of March, and we're going to receive these minutes. Mover and a seconder. Councillor Cameron, Councillor Ellis. All in favour, please say aye. Carried. And we've got recommendations in the recommendation to Council that the Audit and Risk recommends to Council that the NZTA Waka Kotahi Investment Audit Report be received. Move in a seconder. Councillor Hooper, Councillor Cameron. All in favour, please say aye. Is there any discussion on those, as we go through, any discussion on those reports? If there is, we will take discussion if you need to. Next item is the Ashburton Contract Limited Draft Statement of Intent, and it's that the Audit and Risk Committee receives the ACL 2425, take one of those fives out, Draft Statement of Intent and refers it to Council for approval, which is here today. Council formally advises the ACL Board of any comments on the Draft Statement of Intent before 1st of May 24. We've moved in a second. Councillor Brown. Councillor Todd. All those in favour, please say aye. And the other recommendation there is that Council receives the Transwaste Dividends Report. Moved and seconded. Councillor McMillan, Councillor Cameron. All in favour, please say aye. Is there any discussion on any of those reports? No. So we'll move over then to the next item of business, which is the Heritage Working Group. On page 36. Thank you. So we would like to move that we receive the minutes of the Heritage Mid-Canterbury Working Group meeting held on the 27th of March 24. Councillor Cameron. Councillor Wilson, moved and seconded. All those in favour, please say aye. Any discussion on those minutes?
Can I ask a question,
Yeah.
Mr Mayor?
Yep.
Just regarding some of the funding, I see at the bottom of page 36, it says the work is unbudgeted and council approval and funding will be required. Can this heritage group submit to the long-term plan, or is because it's a committee of council that won't work?
Hamish?
No, we wouldn't expect a committee of council to submit to the long-term plan, but individuals outside of council who have a view may well wish to.
Councillor Lovett?
Just going my session on the meeting and talking about the granite plaques. I mean, this has been going around for quite a long time, and we've got all these plaques now down the main street, and I'm thinking there's a couple of people kind of pushing for them, and we're sort of told that some businesses are quite keen to pay for plaques, and then I start thinking, you know, going forward with this issue, I guess this will come back to council, do it if we think we need more plaques or what we've got is enough. And if you've got business people prepared to pay for them, how do you decide, you know, who goes on these plaques? Is it a business or a person, or, you know, it's getting into, to me, to territory where, where I sort of don't like going, where, you know, who makes those decisions, who's more important than someone else, whether it's a business, if there's 7 butcher shops that were in the town 100 years ago, whose butcher shop gets put on the plaque, or if we had a whole lot of, I don't know, another China shops or something, whose plaque gets done. Are we getting into some real touchy ground here? And I'm thinking, you know, we've got all the lovely plaques there now on the corners of the street ones. Yeah, do we need a whole lot more in this town? And who makes those decisions? And the group will put it to council, but there's a lot of work before it even gets there, and has, you know, staff time and everything looking at this.
Just before I go to Councillor Cameron, I'm reading in the minutes that the group has agreed to have informal discussion next month to develop criteria for the plaque. So that might be the start, and the group will develop that up and then present to council what they want to have, and then council will decide if it's appropriate or not. Councillor Cameron?
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to comment, Mr Mayor. And I think Councillor Lovett was actually at the meeting, so I'm not, you might have been at a different meeting, Lynette, to what was actually discussed. But we did have the president of the Historical Society and we had the museum there, and also our own team from the museum and art gallery, and they are going to go away and put some thought into it, and then we're meeting up in a month or so to discuss where we go from there. We were not going to put your grandfather on and not my grandfather, or vice versa, as I sense is a concern, and that is reasonably churlish. It'll be basically based on a criteria that we have to put some thought into. The granite plaques, as in the minutes, have been reviewed, and people have looked at them, and open spaces have reviewed them and felt that they're safe. Down the main street we have interpretive panels, not granite plaques, and the granite plaques we would envisage, although it has to come to council for approval and the content has to come for council for approval and it has to be worked up and the costings have to be reviewed, that we would envisage they go down the footpath nearest the railway line, down that, there's sort of 2 footpaths down there for people to stroll down, and there wouldn't be too many, there wouldn't be every metre or so, they'd be well spread out. And they talk about key aspects of the district's growth, although we have yet to get a theme on how that would work out, so it's very premature. Thank you for the opportunity to comment, Neil.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron. I see in there you're going to agree to have informal discussion. It might be better if it was a formal discussion, and you'll get some better traction, I think.
We're right at the beginning, so we're going to have informal discussions before we have our formal discussions.
Okay.
So we're going to get some feedback, and we think we will focus on the district, because when people read a panel or read a plaque or anything of historical significance, it's more meaningful if it's actually located in the area in which it relates to. So we're going to sort of focus on the Ashburton district or at the moment, and we may progress to the other districts in the region as well. But yeah, we're going to have a formal to get some sort of thinking around it, and then we'll go to the formal.
Okay, you chair that, so you'll follow that through. Thank you. Next item is the Hakatere Community Petition, item number 7. Tony, welcome. Anything further to add to your report?
Thank you. Through the chair, nothing further to add, but I have got Leanne here to answer any technical questions if they do arise.
Okay, thank you. Councillors, questions? And we have a recommendation here which says we'll receive the community petition, but I think we also need to, if we decide to go another step further as well. Councillor Ellis.
Thank you, and that was going to be my question. If we wanted to talk about the location of these bollards, when and where can we do that, and how can we get it on the agenda?
My thoughts of listening to the people from Hakatere is we perhaps need to set up a working group which would possibly comprise of, say, 3 councillors, some staff, relevant staff, and perhaps 3 residents of Hakatere, and come up with a solution and come back to council. That's my thoughts, but you might be different.
Thank you. Sounds like a good suggestion to move this forward.
Yeah. Questions, still questions, Councillor Cameron?
Yes, I have a question through the chair as to how the situation has arisen where the people of that community have had to go to extraordinary measures to have a discussion about the institution of the bollards and the parking and the limitations on the parking. I don't know how we've gone where we are supposed to consult and engage with the group, and if the storyline that we have heard this morning is true, which we have no reason to suspect is not true, how we ended up in this situation, which is something we're probably not comfortable with as a council, I wouldn't have thought.
Leah?
So I can I can respond to that. So in, I'm going to say January, possibly 2023, we lost the camp manager, and we had no one who could manage the campsite. And so I was approached as from a couple of teams to whether we could look at how we were going to manage that. So the idea was to just concentrate on one of the campground sites, which was the lower one. The idea being that A, we wanted to try and mitigate some of the complaints we had received. B, we don't really want to have the big vehicles up on that upper ground where there is erosion. And C, we thought by putting the picnic area and the bollards there to stop people driving onto it, we had solved the problem. We also still have, in the upper Hackett Tree, we have a main picnic area, which you'll see the photo in the report, and there's another bend with another table where a car can actually drive up there as well, so that access is still there, but it's not a place where you could easily camp. So we thought at the time that we had made the right call. We didn't feel at that time that it warranted consultation. We felt it was an operational matter and carried that out as we would normally do. We did meet with the group, as you heard, and I took out 2 elected members came with me, one of my property advisors and Open Space, and we thought we'd found the solution. And we have moved the bollards, and we've got photos that they've presented where you are parking parallel, and you've also got one that I've included where you can park facing the river, which was how I interpreted the request at the time. But acknowledge to them at the face-to-face meeting that it could have been done differently, and have never denied that.
Thank you. No further questions there. So we do have a recommendation there that council receives the Hakatere community petition. I'd also like to add on to that that a working group be set up. 3 councillors, 3 from Hakatere, and appropriate staff that Hamish decides should be there as well. And if we want to do that, we'll need to name 3 from around this table. So if you'd like to think who that might be. And also just acknowledge Gary's comment. He said it's not too late to talk, and he's 100% correct. We always need to engage with you if you're not feeling things are right. So I just thought I'd comment on that as well. Councillor Todd, have any suggestions on some
I was actually
names?
seconding the motion, but
Okay, we haven't.
but I'm more than
We
happy
haven't had a mover of the motion yet.
Oh, okay.
So I'm looking for 3 names to go into the motion.
Okay. I'm happy to put my name forward. I'm looking forward to having some of Gary's biscuits actually, but so here we go.
Yeah, I think you were taking the biscuits. He's doing the coffee. 2 other councillors, Councillor Wilson,
Yes.
and being Eastern Ward, Councillor Lovett, Eastern Ward. 3 councillors. Are those 3 councillors in there? Thanks, Lynette. Philippa.
And do you need a mover?
Yeah, I need a mover now.
Am I allowed to move that, Ben, or not?
Councillor Lovett moved, and Councillor Todd indicated he was going to second. So we're receiving a petition. We're setting up a working group of those 3 councillors who will feed in and then report back to council with a solution. I'll put the motion. Any discussion? Sorry, any discussion?
So I've been involved a few times down there since coming on the council, going down and visiting, and it's the word I'd use is bubbled along, but so we do need to come to a solution that doesn't alienate the people of Hakatere, and I'm sure there is one we can come to by going through a proper discussion process and having a look.
Councillor Cameron?
Absolutely. I think there needs to be a time limit on it. I don't think we can. I'm not lucky enough to be selected on the committee, but I think it needs to be a time limit, and things should be resolved quite quickly, rather than meandering along for a year or 2. So if we can put a 3-month time limit on it, and then a report back to council, or a 2-month time limit, that would be great.
I think it'll be done in a timely manner. So it won't be a year or 2. It'll be in a timely manner, which hopefully is within 3 months, but that depends on what's going on as well. So we'll go as fast as it can go. Yep. Councillor Hooper?
Is it appropriate to ask the community if they're happy with that this time?
Not really, but they could probably nod if they were happy. They nodded, yeah. Yeah, it's a pathway forward. I'm assuming they would be happy with this pathway, and involving the groups to come up with a way forward that'll probably have to be a compromise in there somewhere, no doubt. Councillor Brown?
I think it's a good idea having a working group. And let's get it fixed properly.
Yep. So Councillor Lovett moved, Councillor Todd seconded. I'm going to put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. So the next item is Reserve Classification Program, page 56, and we have Nikki Malone, who is on Zoom, Teams. Coming in. Welcome, Nikki.
Afternoon.
We can see and hear you, so that is great. Ian, are you presenting the report? Anything further to add?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, we have pleasure in presenting this report to you today. It has quite a bit of technical detail in it, and Nikki will lead us through that step by step. It comes at a time when we've workshopped a lot of the matters contained within with the council, and also sought various feedback across reserve boards and the community as well. So I'll hand over to Nikki at this point in time, and we'll take questions as they arise.
Okay, Nikki, if you want to take us through the report, that'd be good.
Sure. Thank you for the introduction, Ian, and good afternoon, councillors. So today's report represents or presents the findings of the comprehensive land status investigation that we've done over the past few months. It's a crucial element of preparing a reserve management plan for the district, which is happening at the moment also, and it will help council to fulfil its obligations under the Reserves Act. So this report presents the actions for the different land classifications, and we've discussed those options with you over the past few months on various occasions, and it's based on legislative requirements as well as industry best practice. So as part of the investigation, we looked at about 500 land parcels and examined them individually. About half of those are within scope of the reserve management plan that is being prepared at the moment. And this report in front of you recommends different actions, which are included within recommendations 1 to 9. That includes classifying 111 land parcels that are currently unclassified and held under the Reserves Act. So that means assigning them a primary purpose. One of those land parcels requires public notification. It also includes recommendations to reclassify 5 land parcels to better match what is currently happening on them. All of those need public notification. And it also includes declaring 28 land parcels, which are currently held under the LGA, to be reserves under the Reserves Act and appropriately classifying them. So 11 of those do require public notification. So there's all up about 20 that need to go through an additional process. So we're just publicly notifying the intention to classify them, and there'll be another report coming to you once we've had submissions and potentially a hearing to formalise those classifications. And talking about the hearing, we're proposing or recommending that council establish a hearings panel to hear any potential submissions on those classifications, and that is covered in recommendation 10 of the report. Following approval, or if you approve these recommendations today, the next steps are publishing the public notice, which would be open for 1 month, undertaking hearings if they're requested, and that really only applies to one of the land parcels, and then reporting back to council, as I said before, likely in June, to confirm those classifications that have been publicly notified. And then the next step is bringing the draft reserve management plan to you for approval for public notification, and that's likely to happen in mid-May, with the view to go out in June for public consultation. That is everything that's covered in the report. As I said, this is a key step in preparing your reserve management plan, and it's working towards getting that ready to publicly notify it in June this year. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Nikki, for that detailed work you've done on these management, reserve management plans. So, councillors' questions, if any, is quite detailed, quite prescript. Councillor McMillan.
Thank you. Hi, Nikki. Just a couple of questions, and I hope I haven't asked these before. On page 82, you've got the Highbank domain. Highbank domain, you've called it. So is that just the area around the reserve And did the High Bank Reserve Board ever comment on wanting the tennis courts included in that area? And maybe
I
it-
don't have the same page numbering
Oh,
that
sorry.
you have,
It's-
but I'm assuming you're referring to the table that are in the appendix.
Yes, so it's Appendix
To the
G, Appendix G, and it's on the third table.
Yeah.
Of High
So
Bank.
there's two land parcels at High Bank. One is what I would call the domain, that's where the tennis courts are, and the
Okay.
second one is the hall, which is where the hall is,
Yes.
and we've both included them in the management plan. We did at the last session we had with the reserve boards last month, we did have a member of the High Bank Reserve Board coming along. I don't recall him mentioning the tennis courts specifically, but they are in scope of the management plan.
That's good, thank you.
See.
And, yeah, and the
Sorry.
next question, if that's okay, is under Appendix K, and it's the Alford Forest domain on our page 90, and
Yes.
the fire station reserve is been taken out of the Alford Forest Reserve Board. Do they get any compensation for that, the Alford Forest Reserve?
If I make that's a bit of a misunderstanding there. So it's not taking out that piece of land from the reserve board. The reserve board would still be responsible to do the day-to-day management. It's just about giving that land parcel its appropriate purpose, which is a fire station and not recreation reserve. So it's just correcting that, but that won't affect who looks after that site at all.
Okay, thank you.
Vicky, has there been any reserve statuses that have been swapped where it's not deemed appropriate to have them on a reserve which has been there a long time but now not needed, and take it off and put that reserve status on another one we're putting on? Has there been any requests for that, or those requests come through the consultation period?
There haven't been any of those requests that have come through the consultation period, but we've discussed those previously, I think, at the last workshop. So we haven't included any of this within this current round of classification, but that doesn't mean it can't be done at a later date.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Wilson?
It's further to Councillor McMillan's question on the fire, because the Hines fire station is under the same situation. Just what is the agreement? You've sort of indicated that the reserve boards are responsible for them, but they don't sort of have any control over them, is effectively the word I'd use. I'm just interested in what's the relationship between the fire service and those reserve boards?
I think I might hand that question more to Ian.
Ian?
Thank you, and through the chair. The situation in a perfect world would be that any leasee on a recreation reserve would have a licence to occupy or a lease, and that would come with a purse to the land administrator, in this case the reserve board. So where we've got some pre-existing agreements that have been in place with the fire service, we need to maintain what has been agreed to date. And going forward, we will look at what the opportunities are for when those existing agreements come to the conclusion, and then how they're dealt with going forward. So I'm not sure directly with the Hines one whether there is a purse that comes from the fire service at this point in time or not. I potentially would suspect not at this point in time. It would be more seen as a community good in terms of its location, which is often the way for these assets, and that's probably why we've discovered 3 that are sitting just on Rec Reserve, which is not ideal.
It would probably be worth looking into because of the recent fire service, the Act, which is changing their funding streams, is it's changing it from being community good to almost quite a commercial basis. A lot of the costings are going, so it's interesting to see that they have a free lunch. I know they service the community, but they have a free lunch, and a lot of places they'll be paying, and so we need to, because a lot of the community is paying very large fire levies, and they wouldn't worry if some of the money went back to the reserve board would be probably not a bad thing.
Yeah, so through the chair, so having an ability to now ring fence these sites off, get a square meterage of what they occupy, that gives us the ability to then, when that time comes, create that equation and have that conversation.
Jane.
Oh, thank you, Mr Mayor. When Fire and Emergency New Zealand was created, we did enter into an agreement with FENZ, as did all local authorities, and they were given these sites, but the free of charge sort of thing, but the arrangement was that they were going to pay rates. But I don't think that's ever happened, and I don't know enough about how that's worked out to be able to say why, but I gather there were complications with creating rates plates for those properties, and I don't believe that's ever actually happened. But certainly the agreement was that they would pay rates, but that they would not be actually sold the land, because we couldn't sell it because it was reserve.
Perhaps on the rates thing, Hamish, you might like to follow that up as to if they can, if they can't, and why, if that was the agreement way back then. Follow up there, thank you. Councillor Todd.
Thank you. Probably just a question for Ian. Do we maintain those reserves now, or is this all new work, or there's quite a few reserves here, so are we looking after them now, or is it all new work?
Yeah.
Through the chair, it's a combination of the reserve boards, if it's a reserve board site, or the council through its open spaces division. That is the case for all of these.
No more questions? Councillor Ellis.
Thank you. Just wondering, are there any extra budget implications? Because suddenly are we finding some roads on reserve land we might have to maintain, which obviously comes with a cost that we won't be part of our fire rate and that sort of thing because they're on our reserves?
Through the chair, there certainly will be at the end of the complete process some level of found assets and probably comparably some lost assets that we no longer have to deal with. So we'll have that mop up at the conclusion of the overall process.
Good. No more questions. Thank you. I've got a recommendation there on page 58. I'm not going to read it out, but there is some names need to be asserted on bullet point number 10. And it says we need to nominate a hearing panel with a minimum of 3 councillors. I think I've got 3 names here as a minimum. I think we perhaps want one more as well to make it 4. And I have Councillor McMillan, Councillor Cameron and Councillor Wilson. Can we have a 4th one? Councillor Brown? Yep. With the addition of those names, someone like to move that recommendation? Councillor Todd? Councillor McMillan? Open for debate. Councillor McMillan.
Thank you. There's a lot of work gone into this. I think with Nikki leading it and with Ian and Neil, all the meetings with the reserve boards, community meetings, it's great to get to this position. So well done.
Yeah, Councillor Wilson.
I agree with Councillor McMillan. I think it's part of the process we're doing. We're strengthening our reserve boards around the district to give them the ability to operate and better function and work better now that they know where their land is and they know their rights, and it's a good process we're going through.
Yeah, echo those points as well. So no further speakers for or against. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Well done. Next item is number 9. Thank you, Nikki. Thanks. Number 9, and it is on page 91. Road closure, Ashburton Car Club standing quarter mile sprint meeting. Mark, welcome, and Neil. Any further to add to the report we have here? Pretty straightforward, isn't it?
Yes, thank you. Just on item 4 on page 92, the traffic management plan hasn't been received or signed off yet, but it will be before the event, and that's a combination of both council and the NZTA because of state highway industry.
Right.
Oh yes, and no objections. Yeah, yesterday.
And who?
No objections received.
Oh, no objections, right. Yes. Thank you. No questions, councillors. The recommendation there. The council permits the temporary road closure of Blands Road from Dip Road to Methven Highway from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. on Saturday, the 18th of May 2024, to allow the standing quarter-mile sprint meeting to be held. So I'd like to move. Councillor Ellis.
Happy to do so, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Cameron, seconded. Open for debate. Being no debate, I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Carried. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Item number 10, the Mayor's report. Any questions on the Mayor's report? If not, I'll move the Mayor's report. We accept it. I'll second it. Councillor Lovett. Open for debate. All in favour, please say aye. Carried. Thank you. That takes us up to the Mid-Canterbury CAB. Due at 2:30. Citizens Advice Bureau. 2:30. We're at 2:10. So we might we'll move into committee and to the committee piece, and then we'll come back into open meeting and see if we're any closer to 2:30 for the CAB. Someone like to move? Councillor McMillan, Councillor Bram, all in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. reconvene the meeting of 17th of April. Just through the break, it came to my attention that item number 7 with the Hakatiri petition, we're going to set up a working group and as soon as I can, and Councillor Lovett will be on leave for some of that, so if she's here, she's part of that group, but if she's not, I'd just like to add Councillor Ellis on as an alternate. If the mover and the second are happy with that, and that was Councillor Lovett and Councillor Todd, if they're happy with that, and no other dissension with that, we'll add Councillor Ellis on as an alternate. Good, thank you. Yeah, next item is item number 11, the Mid Canterbury Citizens Advice Bureau report. Sarah, I think you were ill when we had the 6-monthly report, so great you can come along and share your report 6 monthly with us now, so the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for being so open to changing it. That's very, very helpful. I just wanted to start by saying what an incredible space this is, and what an amazing facility, and was just talking to Tony, and just the mana that this room has is incredible, and a little bit daunted. Don't think I've dressed appropriately today, but yeah, just it's incredible, and you guys must be so proud of your team and everybody that's made it happen. So yeah, pretty cool. Well done. I just wanted to, obviously you've had my report, so I just thought I'd start on page 8. Just the direct person-to-person provision of information and advice. Some of the things to note there, obviously we've had increases in numbers accessing our service year on year, so that's really good. We've also had the client, so the difference between client interviews and a quick reference. Again, the client interview is quite complicated. You talk to this person about a number of different things, whereas a quick reference is they come in wanting to know the phone number for the SPCA. So it's just a very quick, or wanting a brochure for gambling. So it's just a quick kind of one thing, whereas the interview is multiple things you're dealing with. So if you look at the figures for the 6 months, the last 6 months we've done, is a lot of that real complicated stuff. So it takes, it's time consuming. It doesn't really reflect in terms of the numbers. Like if you're just looking at one person coming in, it doesn't represent all the detail and the background and the work the volunteers are doing for that. So just wanted to bring that to your attention. And also that face-to-face one. So face-to-face client interviews, 114, as opposed to quick reference, only 31. So people that are coming to see us face-to-face are coming to see us for that complicated stuff. And they're wanting to talk to a person rather than somebody on the phone. They're wanting to access, and talk to somebody over, what the issue is. Down on the clinics, we had some incorporated societies clinics at the end of last year. So we had 2 clinics running, offering to community groups and organisations that are incorporated societies just about the changes that are happening in their compliance and issues that they're going to have to be doing. They were incredibly well attended, and with a lot of services that don't have big national bodies that can help them. So really good for those small little groups that really need a bit of extra help. So that's great. On the next page, page 9, just looking at the profit and loss, some exciting things there. We had a donation of $1,800. That was from the Rotary Bukarama. So really good opportunity for us to have a pride of place in the middle there. We had the big display up, and all the people that made purchases got our bookmarks. So a real huge opportunity for us, and we were then the recipient of the raffle, so $1,800 from then, so really excited with that. Also there, lottery grants. National Office used to do our lottery grants as a national application for all over 83 CABs around the country, and that's now coming to us individually, so that's a bit of a change for the future. So looking at our budget, so in regards to income, we've just found out a few changes there. The Lottery Grants Board, we were hoping for 15, we've just got $5,000. So that's going to be a big impact for our budget going forward. In terms of our expenditure, we've had quite a significant rent increase. We have reduced the number of rooms. We used to have 2 volunteer rooms, and we've taken over the Rangitata room, which is the medium-sized room at Community House. So although it's kind of reducing the number of rooms, it is a bigger space. It means that they're right next to my office, which is handy, and it also means that we've got 3 opening doors for safety to exit in a hurry, and it also means that there's a space for a big board table, so we can have the volunteers working, we can have our board meetings in there, and we can have larger groups and families coming in, so a really good use of space and a reduced kind of, we don't have to hire the bigger meeting rooms as much, so that's really great. So on to service development for next year. We have got 4 new volunteers, 4 new interviewer volunteers, which is great. We've got one that's coming down from Geraldine every day to do her training, and now she's on board. She's been doing great. It's wonderful to have. We've also got a board rep volunteer that's come on board that is not a volunteer interviewer. We're allowed a certain small percentage of people that are not interviewers to be on our board. So we've got 2 of those. One's a lawyer and one's works in the library here. In regards to extending our opening hours, we're always interested in that. The more volunteers we can have, the longer hours we're opening. We're also hoping to do Methven. Warren from Anglican Advocacy and myself and a number of groups are hoping to set something up there, which is exciting. In terms of new clinics and new stuff that we're doing, we've been doing an IRD clinic, which is we're facilitating that for a lady from Timaru comes up to run that. We've had 3 this year so far, and we've had over 27 people attend those clinics, which is phenomenal, really. Anything from needing a new ID number for somebody that's new to town wanting to start work, people wanting to start a new business. We've had people wanting to know how to donate their money before they go into a retirement home and don't want to pay some taxes on their house. We've had people wanting to know about working for families and child support and refunds and debt and things like that. So it's been really, really great to be able to help some people. One gentleman we had, and he won't mind me telling you this, but he came in quite concerned about a large bill he had. He'd misput his IRD number on incorrectly, and they just completely waived his debt, and it was in the thousands, and he is just over the moon in his 80s, so he's just pretty stoked. So it's pretty exciting stuff. Yeah. So also, the Need Help books, so I brought a couple more in for you today in case you've distributed the ones that you have. We did a reprint this year, and we've now printed 4,000 books, and this is the last of it. So we need to do more, so the next print is not till next year, so we're going to have to print some more, so that's pretty incredible. They have been incredibly popular. For example, out at the Meatworks, ANZCO, New World just asked me for 200 to put in every single employee's pack. They just think it's a great resource for their staff, so just incredible stuff. So I'm pretty proud of that. So this year we National Office, so the support that we get from National Office, they did a spotlight on youth. And they set up a new youth website, which is really exciting. Previous spotlights have been on, say, digital exclusion and how that impacts people. And the next spotlight is going to actually be on death and dying, which is quite an interesting topic, and all the, things around that, so that's going to be fascinating. I'll just show you, so the youth website, so it's just up on your screens up there. So this is our main website. and the youth website pulls the data from the main one. So just like the Aratohu website, which I showed some of you previously, which is the tenancy one, everything around tenancy, this is everything around youth. So it's the same format, so all very simple, and it covers all sorts of things: going flatting, getting your ID, buying a car, problems at work, studying, like the studying stuff goes into places you can apply for funding and all sorts of different things on how to go into study. So this is going to be an incredible tool for our youth, and not just our youth, even people that are starting, newcomers to New Zealand, it's or just, buying a car for anybody actually. So real good place to start. I've done some advertising in the local papers and contacted the high schools and places like that to go and do some presentations. So I'm working with groups to try and promote it. So that's going to be really neat for our young people. And I think that is all I had. So questions?
Thanks, Sarah, for in-depth report on what you've been doing. I just have one question, and it's around the clinics that you hold, and you talked about the IRD one.
Yep.
Where do you hold them?
In our offices. Yeah.
Sorry, Karen.
Yeah, so for example, the Incorporated Societies one, I hired the Rangitata room, the Rakaya room at Community House because it was bigger, more people, and the IRD clinic is just in my office or in the volunteer office, so just depending on how many people somebody brings with them. So support sometimes with anxiety and stuff over, they might bring a couple of support people, so bigger space is needed.
I was just thinking it might have been a bigger clinic than that in the events room down here, a space for you. You'd advertise, and if people want to know anything about IRD could come along and ask those questions. They might get 20 or 30 people. I don't know if it's that big or not, but that's the space that could be utilised like that.
Absolutely, yep, definitely something we'll look at doing this year. We've a couple of the people that went to the clinics were organisations, like for example, Pacifica Iraqi had a couple of their staff members go and talk to the IRD lady to see how they could support their clients. So, so definitely looking at running a few more bigger things using your spaces in this building. Absolutely amazing.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Liz.
Thank you. Hi, Sarah. I have a question on clinics as well, and I see immigration and tech support clinics have dropped down quite a bit. Is that because other people were doing them and you don't need to, or you're just not getting?
Yeah, so the tech clinic in particular, obviously the library staff were doing a lot and had a lot of funding and personnel that could help with that, so we just started referring people to that. And also, it was on kind of once a month, and so having people at the library all the time is a lot better option, which is great. In terms of the immigration clinic, it's been pretty quiet, and numbers have kind of been 1 or 2 each clinic this year, so the numbers have picked up again this year.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Cameron.
Thank you, Sarah. That's a great report, and I think you're doing a tremendous job. And to have this facility or the service available in Ashburton, I think we're all very thankful for it. So thank you. So you're thinking of going up to Methven to run like clinics up there, or regular clinics, or from Methven, or would the Ashburton people go up there and?
Yeah, so the idea roughly at this stage is that Anglican Advocacy and myself, possibly a volunteer, and other organisations have shown interest, like the Newcomers and Birthright, and there's a heap of organisations that want to have a presence in Methven. Warren and I went up there and we were kind of like, what's available? And they referred us to the second-hand shop. And we're like, so what do you guys do? And they're like, we've got clothes. And that was it. So we've had a lot of kind of people coming from Methven, and it just makes it easier just to, so we thought we'd give it a go. Notoriously will be tricky to get people that have an issue. So the right time, right place is going to be, but yeah. The idea being that if CAB goes, then we can refer them to the right people. So we can, yep, this person's not here today, but this is their phone number, and you know they're really great to talk to, and just that hand holding type stuff. So
And are you, I've got a few questions if I may, please, Neil. Are you doing like audio visual, you know, Zooming? Like could you Zoom to a person in their
Absolutely,
home if
yeah.
they make an appointment to speak to
Yeah.
your lawyer or whomever is down
Yeah,
here? For example?
absolutely,
Yeah,
yeah.
that would be good.
Yeah.
You mentioned before that CAB nationally applied for grants on behalf of all the 80 odd offices around New Zealand. How will that, so you have to apply for your own.
Yeah.
How will that impact your operations? Like, is that going to be harder? Will have you
So as you could see, we asked for 15 and we got 5.
Yeah.
So funding is very hard at the moment, very hard, as you all know. But in the social services, you know, people are gambling less. You know, leases are, you know, income's not coming from a lot of stuff as much as it was. So there are also more people asking for a smaller pot. So the more funding and support we can get from you guys, and I think I've been pretty good at not asking for too much, but I want to ask for a lot more, let's be honest. That, yeah, we're just going to have to be, I think we're going to be needed more in the coming
That's right.
months. Yeah,
So I
absolutely.
see you asked for 15,000 plus just.
Yeah, so I actually brought another page, which I didn't send, just adding a increase of the percentage increase.
Sorry, we're fiddling around with our
Oh, sorry. I didn't realise that it was supposed to be a 10-year plan request, sorry, when I submitted it. I was, you know, obviously COVID. So I just did a 4% increase and 3% year after that. Yeah.
We haven't, the 10-year plan's not cast in stone yet. We haven't gone out for submissions and that, so there's time to modify that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're out for submissions at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah. Councillor Ellis?
Thank you. The youth tool you've got up there looks fantastic. Now, I just don't think I saw, though, like a health and wellbeing spot.
Oh, yeah, there was, I think.
There was
yeah.
there?
Wellbeing there.
Wellbeing, okay.
Yeah,
And so,
so
that is
you
like,
click on that and then
Yeah.
you click on these tiles.
Cool.
So it could be wellbeing, so finding a support group, self-harm, worried about someone harming, and then relationships, domestic violence, pregnancy, so parenting. So yeah, so
No,
it's all
fantastic.
pretty detailed.
Yeah.
So for example, if you were going into, say, let's go I haven't pre-done this, so let's have a look at this one. So then it looks at ways you can search your community directory or look at different groups. Yeah. Yeah.
Fantastic. Moving forward, as you said, as things get tougher out there, the need for your service does increase. But as you say, with the flip side of that is funding gets even more difficult.
Yeah.
Can I suggest you put a submission into our long-term plan and to update where you're at on this one?
And the amount of KiwiSaver withdrawals I've helped people do recently, and you know, you just, yeah, people are in some pretty tight, and I think it's a group of people that are not the ones you think are the ones that need support. It's the ones that are all one step away from financial ruin, one car crash, one hot water cylinder payment, one, you know, they don't have savings, they don't, you know, they're living, you know, a well life, and they look that they're doing well, but actually, yeah, just one non-ACC medical issue, and they're not working, and yeah, it's pretty tricky. Yeah.
Yeah, we're just in that moment of time with finances and economy, etc.
Yeah.
And the more we charge in rates, it flows down to the people. It's a spiral. Yeah. So we want to keep our costs down, rate rises low as well to help those people. So. Yeah, but you know,
I totally understand that,
you know that,
but
yeah.
if there is extra anywhere, I'm happy to receive it.
I don't think there's extra, but that's our problem though. Yeah, to work through all that. Councillor Lovett.
Some of the clinics you're running for the immigration IRD and that, do they contribute to the cost of running these clinics, or should they be contributing?
They're doing it voluntarily, so they're contributing their time, and if their hourly rate was added onto that, then it would be a lot more expensive. So we don't pay them anything for doing that, so they're doing it voluntarily. I think that's probably enough to ask for, yeah.
And the other question a lot of people ask me, there's a lot of services out there, duplication and that. Do you ever sit down and see what's going on with other organisations and try to rationalise? Because the money is getting tight, and you go to some meeting and someone will say, oh, we do that, or we do that, and we do a bit of this, and you're thinking, it's like everyone's trying to put a finger in the pot. Do you ever sit down with organisations and try and say, well, you do that because you do it well, or you, or...
I think the hardest part is, for us, is the services that aren't there. So that's the kind of focus that I've been kind of looking at the moment, is just what the gaps are, and trying to make an impact there. So some of the ones that we've been advocating and promoting something happens, is like the emergency housing, things like that, where actually there is no service that is really helping people. So that's where we're kind of making our biggest impact at the moment, yeah. If there's some... It's also quite nice for people to have choice. So sometimes there are a number of services. For example, if we go to budget, they want to come in for budget support, we can say, look, there's online, you can look at Sorted, you can look at this here, you can talk to us. There's also 2 services in town. There's the Budget Advice Service, or there's Christians Against Poverty, and then you find out that Budget Advice Service has a waiting list and they can't see them, and, so it's quite good that there is a choice, and one model won't fit everybody. So absolutely the duplication of services in terms of funding is an issue, and I think that's why the CAB was asked to come to town, because there was a number of social services that were creating directories because they couldn't find things and all that sort of stuff, and that's why it's so important that we have that directory and that it's accurate and that it's well funded and well resourced. Sorry, that was a long answer.
Thank you, Sarah. I think there's no more questions, so thanks very much for all you do on the CAB, and you look forward to the submission with a little bit extra. Like a B something.
Excellent, thank you.
So thanks very much. Councillor, I think we've got to the end of our agenda. Thank you. We are done. Oh, sorry, yeah. Just need to receive Sarah's report, so we'd like to move.
I'll move.
Liz, seconded. Russell. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Just before I close the meeting, I meant to say at the start that Richard has stepped in for Sarah while she's on leave. Didn't have to do much today, Richard, which is, you'll probably think is great, but next time I'm sure you'll have something. If Sarah's not back, you probably will be here next time, won't you? Yeah. Yeah. Great, so I'll declare the meeting closed, and thank you all for your attendance. And your cup of tea time, so if you want a cup of tea, Sarah, we've got one running in a few minutes. Thank you. Perfect. And another chat.